Morning. The bad news. According to the Newspaper Association of America, ad revenues adjusted for inflation have descended from a 1999 high of $65 billion to a 1950 level $20 billion in just the last decade or so. And as, of course, all of you recognize, after the beginning of Google and Craigslist and Cars.com, Realtor.com, all those pure plays, millions of blogs, local sites, directories, publishers have struggled to survive the digital apocalypse. It's not been pretty. Now, having signally failed to meet the challenge of selling or even explaining their often poorly thought through digital offerings, there is apparently perhaps a new savior du jour for publishers to lean back on. And it's not Deal of the Day and other fiscal disasters. It's the integrated digital media suite. Here's the theory. Really, don't laugh. Who better than newspapers, with their strong local sales presence, community roots, to sell a grab bag of SEM, SEO, website production, social media, video, digital, blogs, online reputation management, and Lord help us and save us, maybe even Twitters and pins? Who better? Anybody. But seriously, that's the opportunity here. Now, my company, if I could just plug for one split second, my companies take a different answer to this conundrum. We believe that SMBs would rather have the flipping phone ring in their pocket with somebody who wants a quote, wants a visit, wants to do some kind of actual interaction, rather than a pin, a tweet, a like, or a click. We're a big believer in good old-fashioned phone calls. And what we do is we use all those cool new media, at least the ones that work, and the ones that aren't flooded with corrupt media, which describes most of them nowadays. We use all of those new media to drive good old-fashioned phone calls, which we do for tens, hundreds of thousands of businesses in enormous scale. That's what we do. That's my plug. I'll stop. Now, if local businesses want to dabble with Do It For Me or DIY, with or without the help of their publisher holding their hand to lead them through the happy land of online media, that's terrific. But meantime, we keep the phone ringing because that's really what drives the SMB world, not the click. Now, our first panel today is excellently well placed to make us wise about this annoying, expensive, appalling marketplace, which is digital online SMBs. Now, the moderator for this session, I'm going to call him up on like a WWE basis, your very own, fresh from his recent victory, Lord knows where, Street Fight's very own Mike Sokoloff. Mike, coming up. Now the fun begins. The Deseret Digital Media Group has been something of perhaps an unexpected thought leader in this space. Really, who would have thought it? And Eric Bright will bring us wisdom, which may or may not be delivered on golden tablets. Come on up, Eric. Give him a clap. Mike Orren of Speakeasy represents the kind of outsourced partner or provider you're going to have to work with if you want to noodle your way through this messy disaster of SEO, SEM, social, mobile, local on a do-it-for-me basis. So Mike, Orren, please come up. Where is he? Is he coming up? Come on, Mike, you can do it. Take your time, amble if you must. Okay, finally, our last, and I should, full disclosure here, I've worked with Gatehouse Media for a long, long time. They're a great bunch of folks out there. Sean McDonnell runs Propel Media for Gatehouse Media, and he is very well placed to give you insights of what a major publishing group actually does and has achieved in this weird, wacky, and painful space. So, Sean, come on up. Walk as slowly as you wish, please. Okay, so that's the panel. They're awesomely well-equipped. If there is an answer to this question, these guys probably have it. And I'm going to leave the panel to you. Thank you, gentlemen.
I don't know that we have the perfect answer for it, but we've definitely got a great group of people who can help us at least share what they're doing. We'll go down the panel, jump right in, and let you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Eric Bright. I'm the e-com guy at Deseret Digital Media. And Deseret Digital Media has a couple of news properties in market, but we hold the distinction of being one of the few markets where Craigslist doesn't dominate the classified sector. We're actually about 4 times Craigslist in Utah.
So I'm a lifelong local media guy, always have been with media companies, publishers, but I now run a content marketing and social media agency that is a joint venture between Slingshot Advertising, which is a traditional agency out of Dallas, and the Dallas Morning News. Dallas Morning News being the partner that we have rights to their archive and probably most importantly the use of their sales force to sell our services.
Hello, I'm Sean McDonnell. I lead the sales effort for Propel Marketing, and we focus on SEO, SEM, reputation management, all of the digital services as a company that's a separate entity to Gatehouse, but falls under Gatehouse Ventures. I've spent a majority of my career in media and advertising, as well as in the startup space with Revenet, which was acquired by a local company here, Pubmatic, back in 2011.
So it's a great mix of a more SMB services to more what a traditional agency to e-commerce offerings, all being offered by newspapers, which is surprising for some people and not surprising for others. But why is it, and Sean, we'll start with you, why is it that newspapers are best positioned to do this? Well,
I really think it comes down to the scalability and the trust and relationships that are in the marketplace. I think there's a stat from Burrell that your average SMB gets 20 calls per month as it relates to some sort of marketing or media solicitation. They'll activate on 2 of those, and that same study showed that they trust actually their newspaper account executive the most. And so I think that there's that trust and credibility factor. But you have to tie that in with the right solutions where they can scale and they can drive great results. And as Tim mentioned, calls and leads and performance for SMBs, that's the most critical thing. And I think newspapers and those companies are positioned to make that happen. But obviously there's a lot of work to be done.
So Mike, is it all about the brand? Is that what drives it and what allows you guys to be successful?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean, the relationship thing can't be emphasized enough. My last startup was PegasusNews.com, which was a digital-only competitor to the Morning News, and I really learned the hard way that, it was 3 to 5 years before most advertisers felt comfortable and safe with us just as a new brand in the market, regardless of our numbers. I think the other thing that newspapers bring to the table is the ability to be cross-platform across everything. I've looked at the most successful promotions that we've done, and one component that's in common in all of them is that they were promoted in print as well as on social media and other digital devices. So I think if they're already in there and doing things with the newspaper, there's just a lot more opportunity to succeed.
And Eric, you mentioned the statistic about Craigslist. What is it that you guys have executed differently than? Newspapers across the country would love to be in your situation. How did you get there, and is it still possible for other newspapers to do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We get asked all the time. For us, we had luck was a big part of it, timing, and then brand equity. And we got in the market with our classifieds products just before Craigslist did. And then brand equity took over. So really what news media did for us, legacy news media, was build that audience foundation. And today they've handed that to us, trusting that we'll leverage it correctly. And we don't work with the news organization anymore. Marketplace has taken the audience, and we're working on products to optimize.
So completely separate from
Totally separate.
What you're calling the legacy product, which is probably not a term that most people in the newspaper industry actually use.
They don't like it either.
Yeah, I've been told to say core team from now on instead of legacy.
So if you guys are selling businesses differently, can you kind of give us an example of what a typical sale would look like or offering that would look like that you'd sell to a local business?
Well, we have a whole suite of products, but we're basically selling solutions. But search is a huge part of that. Actually, website development with all the pain that comes with it. Yet there's still, so many of the products orbit around that solution. So, but I will say what Mike mentioned is that halo effect of having great digital services tied with some of the core solutions we've seen to drive the majority of results. So not only is there a great growth opportunity with new digital services with these SMBs, but feel that there's a great opportunity to use it as a retention tool on the core side as well. So it's really a combination of all the different products we have.
And what's the average order size for something going through your
Average contract value that we're seeing on the direct side is around $2,500. It's a little bit lower when you look at the way that we're structured is we have a Propel direct team. So that's just 100% digital specialists that call out, and that's the only product that they sell. And then when you look at the Gatehouse team, where we have another 500 or so account executives out in market, and then the third revenue channel is resellers. Propel marketing offers its platform as the back end for other media companies, but it's higher on the direct side than it is with the core side.
And Mike, you guys have a team at the Dallas Morning News that's doing something similar, but they made a conscious decision to actually set up a separate entity to do what you're doing. Why is that?
Well, and this whole business was the Morning News' idea, and one of the things they knew was that outside of the creative piece, which they have an agency to do, they didn't know the agency business, and they felt like if it was inside the building, it could get killed, it could get bogged down in bureaucracy. We also have a little bit of a double whammy in that they're our parent company, they're also one of our larger clients, so we're working with them on how they manage their social, and we're doing some content marketing for them. So it was almost too close to be in the building. And it's worked nicely. In fact, in some cases, we're able to help them short circuit any roadblocks inside their organization by being the outsider to come in and do it quick. So when they wanted to do a website on the JFK assassination and there was worry about, well, how are we going to get the domain through legal, I just bought it on my iPad and built them. So it helps to be part of the family but outside.
And, the newsroom has obviously played a role in everyone getting started up, and including you. You've already said that it's separate. Is there come a point in time, and the title of this panel is Local News is a Loss Leader. Does there come a point in time where the newsroom and the content is the brand, and it's helping to support these other entities, whether it be e-commerce, whether it be an agency offering, whether it be SMB services, and we're okay with the newsroom and maybe even a print product or online product losing money because it helps support these other products and services? Sure.
Yeah, I think for us, one of our news organizations that'll lead out as the brand. But for the KSL side, Marketplace is the brand. And we're already to the point where, we're about 50-50 Marketplace commerce revenue to advertising revenue on the news media side. We're already getting to that point where, our vision is that we'll subsidize news going forward because it's an important part of our organization, but it's really difficult to monetize that.
And we should say your organization is set up different. You're not you don't have a corporate entity that's interested in making sure that everything that you're doing is pulling a profit. Is that?
That's not true, actually. So Deseret Media Companies is actually a for-profit organization, and there's a lot of pressure to pull a profit.
So how can for-profit organizations support something that maybe isn't going to, just for the idea that we want to create local news, or?
Sure, right. So there's a strong belief that news is a voice in the community, that it needs to be there. The community trusts in that voice. It's just so difficult to monetize that voice anymore. So, we have a broadcast TV affiliate relationship with NBC as well, and as we move down the road, those will not go away, but we know that they're harder and harder to pull dollars from, so our organization steps in to really drive the revenue machine to subsidize those two groups.
Yeah, I think our parent company would look at it a little bit differently. I don't think they're ready yet to wave the white flag on the news organization being self-supporting, but I've heard our chairman, Jim Maroney, say that, if you look at that big gap that we pointed out at the beginning in where advertising was and where it is now, that's not coming back. What they're looking at is adjacent businesses where they can make small bets, and we're never gonna make up the $20 million a year that's gone away in advertising, but we'll be a piece of that. And they have another product-oriented social business that'll make up another little piece of that. So I think they're looking at a lot, kind of an ecosystem of adjacent businesses that hopefully will help with pieces of that shortfall.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the profitability is still important, but the credibility that you have with that product in market, I think you do have to look at it differently, that what you were making in margins, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago may not be the same as you enter into new revenue streams. Yet the credibility of those products can really help not only fund current investments when you're launching something new, but I think can continue to grow because once again, SMBs are also, they're our visitors and our readers, to the site, and the ones subscribing to the paper. So I think that it's still important to have both and to make sure that you're generating as much revenue, but understand that those levels will not be the same.
When you're going out in the marketplace, newspapers have a core group of advertisers that have been with them for quite some time, but there's a lot of people in the local market that don't advertise with the newspaper, have stopped for whatever reason. How are you, when you go out there, differentiating yourself from either another agency or, in your case, from other SMB services providers, including the Googles of the world and Yext and all these other companies that are out there offering these services?
For us, it's obviously a very competitive space. There's many folks, whether it's a boutique firm just focusing on one digital service or someone offering multiple services. We've still found that some of these core products have been in market 150 years. They don't feel that they're going to get burned or it's going to be, I'm going to take this investment and run. They know where your office is. They know that you're in the community. That trust factor has really helped win new business, because one of the things that's been really eye-opening to us is it's opened up a completely new segment of businesses that really didn't exist with the core side. That's all about leads and driving results, particularly in the home services category, which obviously makes up a huge part of a lot of digital services revenue for companies. So I think that that is one of the most important things, and one of the greatest findings that we've seen is opening up that new stream for us.
Yeah, I'd agree that's really critical. Yeah, we find that our biggest competitor is not any company out there. Our biggest competitor is that 22-year-old they're going to hire who's maybe knows social media but has never actually marketed anything before. And that's who they're going to put in charge of blogging and social and whatnot. So yeah, I think, again, being a known entity and tied to the morning news just makes that a much easier conversation than if we were one of a dozen startups out there saying, hey, hire us, instead of hiring a person.
So taking a couple steps back, and we'll start with you, Eric. How did you go about building, you're and I know that you were part of the team, but you're at a newspaper who's been doing the same thing for a number of years, the same people doing the same thing for a number of years. How do you go and enter a new marketplace? In your case, e-commerce. In your guys' case, the SMB services.
For us, first and foremost, we had to separate the organizations. It was the first year we tried, it was a really ugly year, and lots of people didn't like change. There were feelings hurt, felt like they were having their business taken away from them. So we separated the organizations completely, put them on different floors, and then we just went about rebuilding the products from an e-commerce perspective instead of hey, we can slap a bunch of ads up here perspective.
And you brought in people who have years of experience selling classifieds, or people who have years of experience on the e-commerce side, or a combination?
Yeah, we don't have any media folks on my team, so our team's 57 today, and there's not a single media year of experience there. We're all either e-commerce or direct-to-consumer marketing or database marketing experience.
Mike?
Yeah, I think for us it was about getting the right roles on the partners on the team right at the beginning. So the traditional agency, Slingshot, who is our agency back in the morning news, really just got out of the way and said, you guys, you got the agency part. And then on the sales side, the morning news has had to really learn and refine and iterate as we went. We started out with the legacy or core team selling us, but also this, I call them the SWAT team of a few people focused on us. And we quickly discovered that the problem was that the SWAT team understood what we did, not so much the core team, but the core team had all the relationships. So we've had to iterate that and turn the SWAT team almost more into an advocate role where they work with the core team to get us in the door. And once you figure out where everybody fits in that role, it works really nicely.
As Eric mentioned, we took the approach of completely separate company, completely located in a different part of Boston. It's up to about 120 folks, and we project to be at about 200 or so by the close of this year, but it really was built recruiting folks from HubSpot, Constant Contact, Monster, a lot of technology and media companies within the Boston marketplace. So we're able to tap into a pretty deep digital talent pool, similar to San Francisco. Boston has a lot of talent on that front, so it's completely separate. Yet we very much work in collaboration with the local units, because once again, tapping into those relationships and that four-legged approach is where we've seen the most success as well.
I know that you guys are also, and you mentioned you're selling the product and services as a white label to other media companies. How much of the revenue that you guys see in the future is coming from your markets versus from other markets?
As it stands right now, it's really Propel, Direct, and Gatehouse, the majority of the revenue, because we're actually, we're ramping up the resellers. We think that there's probably going to be a pretty even split between Gatehouse markets and Propel Direct. Resellers, we see great opportunity as well, because we've focused just in Gatehouse markets to launch Propel, and we're starting to see some great results with partners that we have across directories, radio, and newspaper, really starting to engage and drive great results in their own markets as well.
And Eric, from your guys' perspective, you've obviously figured it out in your market. What does the opportunity look like for you guys outside of your current market?
Yeah, so we haven't figured it out in our market. If you just looked at who we normally compete with in media groups, we have 70 or 65% of the market. But if you look at all these third-party pure plays in the market, the Yelps and the Career Builders and the Monsters and Auto Traders, we only have 17% of our market. So we spent a lot of time as loss leaders losing the market, and so we've focused first and foremost on grabbing some of that back. We certainly are looking outside of our market. We have a movie rating site, OK.com, that we license to partners outside of the market, and we entertain ideas outside of the market. We have a travel site that's Utah focused, but it's going to be gathering dollars from people coming into Utah. So Utah focused first, but definitely on the roadmap is how we extend beyond the borders.
When you're out there and you're selling these products, what is the feedback that you're getting from these businesses? Is it, oh, we're willing to try anything? Is it, we're trying this because we trust the newspaper brand? Or is there really a demand? So in other words, there's all these other folks that are competing with you guys. Is it the brand that is really elevating you guys to close those deals? And is it sustainable in that? So once you've saturated that marketplace, are you able to get out there and get more within your market?
I think that in the long run, you're going to grow beyond just that base of folks that you had a relationship with on the core side. But we are finding that relationship has helped, because you're really approaching kind of three different sets of folks. Ones that have run some sort of digital services and maybe been burned, and it just hasn't worked for them, so they're really hesitant to enter into a new relationship. The second group are folks that have not, and you have to educate them everything about digital services, so that's a longer sales cycle, and that takes some time. And then there's the third group of folks that are actually doing it on their own and might be doing a decent job, but what you're representing to them is, one of the things we found to be pretty powerful is to look at what their average hourly rate is for their good or their service, and that is where their sweet spot is. So they really shouldn't be spending 2 or 3 hours on SEM, and that if they're performing what their duty is, they're able to make a lot more money, and they're able to have a third party handle that for them, but it has to be someone that they trust. So once again, it's that trust and credibility factor. I know I've said that multiple times, but we've seen that being a huge factor in the market.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a big spectrum in terms of sophistication in this area of businesses, but to Tim's point earlier, I think we're getting past the point of people being excited about likes and engagement, and they're starting to, they want the phone to ring, or more importantly, they want actually people in the door. So, I mean, one of the things that we had to add as a heavy piece of our service offering from the beginning is we always thought we were, focusing on what you say on social and then how you get it out on social and through other channels. But really, for us, the third pillar has become promotions, and that's critical to actually proving it. Hey, this works. We actually got somebody to come into this furniture store and check in on Facebook, and we can prove it. I think there's a real high demand for accountability. It sort of reminds me of a couple years ago when people were starting to demand precision out of display in the way that they were used to with, say, Google Ads. And I think we're starting to see that demand for precision in these other digital services. Prove that there's an ROI.
And you're able to deliver that?
We certainly try.
So if and I know you guys have gone to a number of newspaper conferences. If you go to a newspaper conference anytime this year, there are probably about 4 panels on creating a digital agency at each conference. Why is it that A, it's popular right now, and B, why did it take so long? If it's the smart decision and the right thing to do, why did it take us this long to get to this spot?
I think that there probably with some folks was a fear of cannibalization of, that the core product was under fire, and the margins obviously were much higher at a different point in time, so that there's a fear of I'm going to switch from this pocket to start a new revenue stream over here. I think also at a time when their revenues were drastically decreasing, there's a lot of pressure on expense management versus reinvestment. So I think what you've seen is the companies that are really looking into the future are willing to make the short-term investment and understand that that's going to affect your expenses in the short term, but in the long term, this really is the opportunity to capture not only lost dollars, but I think maintain dollars that still exist, because the products that they have are still driving great results, but sometimes you're not proving it as much. So even having a dashboard for all your digital services, but then you're adding in call tracking to the ROP and the direct mail side and whatnot, you're actually able to prove the value proposition across all of your products. So I think that there was some fear and there was some expense issues in play for a lot.
I think what's changed a lot has been that, while the last 10 years have been really rough for the industry, it's not like we didn't learn anything. And I think newspapers have learned to listen to the canaries in the coal mine, the sales reps coming in and saying, not just, well, we lost the client, well, why'd you lose him? Well, the answer increasingly is, well, the guy who left print and went to digital display now says, well, I can do this all on my own on Facebook and my blog and Twitter, so I don't need you guys anymore. And so they bring back that message, they start listening to it. And the other piece of that, though, is to his point about how the SMB guy probably not best using his time for the chef blogging all day. Most of the businesses we look at aren't very good at it, and so there's a disconnect. They've left that advertising environment, but they need help to make what they do in their own environment work. So I think it's just the timing of this. It's everything's come together to make this the right time for that.
Yeah, and my perspective is framed from not being in media for my career, but this may be irreverent, but I think it's the next new shiny object, and it's hard. And both of these guys can tell you, Gatehouse has probably done it the best, but it's hard. We have a digital agency, and it's generating new revenue for us, but on slim margins. And to me, it's just like it's the newest disruptive ad that we can slap in front of users, and it's really easy to throw it up and get going. It'll consolidate, and there will be winners in that space, and there will be a lot of papers who threw together a digital agency that 2 years from now they'll be sitting back going at those conferences, okay, what's the next new great idea that I can put back into my organization?
So what is the next new great idea that everyone's going to jump after?
Sorry. For us, it's e-commerce. I mean, we look at e-commerce, and you look at the growth opportunities. I mean, e-commerce is a $300 billion opportunity over the next 5 years. Online ads is $50 billion, and mobile commerce is a $50 billion opportunity. Mobile ads is a $4.5–5 billion opportunity. So for us, we increase the pie by saying, let's just go outside of where we've always been.
So give us some examples, Eric, of the e-commerce solutions that you guys are building outside of, we obviously know that newspapers went after the cars and the jobs, and those outside of those typical verticals that we see newspapers going after, what are you guys doing that is moving the needle?
Sure. So we certainly have the classifieds verticals led by automotive and jobs that we are moving into. Jobs is a good example. We have the largest paid job board in Utah today, and it's all self-serve. There's not a single
And it's
direct
not
sold
Career
dollar.
Builder.
And it's not Career Builder. Yeah, we didn't partner with one of those guys. But we took our deal platform, we jumped into the deal at a time and said, this is crazy, let's jump into this as a full e-commerce model with both soft goods, hard goods. We run what we call deals, but they're really just products on the site. We'll have up to 400 of those on the site at any time. We launched a sister brand for the boutique vertical that's hard goods. We acquired a site, Utah.com, that was traditionally an advertising site that we're pushing into a booking engine, so we're taking direct dollars from consumers. And eventually we'll get into what we call KSL shops, where we take that framework that we've built in deals, that technology that we'll leverage for selling hard goods. So if somebody's in classifieds buying a used snowshoe, we'll cross-sell new snowshoes that we'll run through our cart and fulfill through partners.
So there's obviously an advantage to being a local company trying to do local shopping online, but there's also a disadvantage in that if there's a national company that you're competing against, they've got national brand recognition. How do you balance that?
Yeah, we're not going to beat Amazon, but that's who we look at. We're competing with Yelp, Amazon, we're competing with Career Builder and AutoTrader. When we go out and talk to our customers, local is what always comes to the surface. Most of those large national pure plays really don't have a local footing. Yelp scares us because they have a local team in market. They're really good at it. Amazon, the way we think we're not going to beat Amazon, but in market we can actually add efficiencies. Amazon has 2-day shipping and striving to get to single-day shipping, but we can set up single-day shipping relationships so users can buy today and have it tomorrow. That's where we think we have an opportunity to get some of that market share back.
Between the newspaper and the TV station, which does a better job for you guys at driving growth within your e-commerce platform?
Probably.
Because the KSL brand is the TV brand, right?
Yeah, KSL is the TV brand. I wouldn't say they do a great job with it for us driving the marketplace. The online brand of KSL does a great job for us. Deseret News is really a distinct brand. It used to be its own separate company, so they don't really drive very much to us. It's really that online brand, but most of our traffic comes from direct links, bookmark traffic, people coming to the marketplace first.
So all three of you have built up something, like we said, completely new at a newspaper company. If you could go back and do it all over again, what would you do differently? We'll start with you.
I think that understanding the amount of effort it takes relating with the SMBs, particularly around website development, is that has proven to be a little bit more challenging than we had initially thought. So we've changed a lot of processes to make that a more efficient play for us, and in doing so, we've seen already some great results. So that was probably one thing out of the gate. And I would say also spending more time and effort in training. For the sales teams particularly. Some folks that are coming from outside of the digital services space, we have a pretty intense training, but we're actually going to ramp that up to be much more of a long-term ongoing training program that can really take folks to a different level. So those would probably be the two key things just in the short period of time since we launched.
Yeah, we're very new at this. We're only 8 months in, so we're still making those mistakes. But in addition to maybe earlier on figuring out that the core reps are the key to the sale and using the SWAT team differently. I think the other thing that we've learned, and again, we're a little different model because we're pure services models, we spend a lot of time and energy creating this perfect rate card, this menu of services with the gold, silver, and bronze. And I think out of 40 clients, maybe 2 of them are on the menu. It's all custom. And really, that's one of our competitive advantages, is that we are offering a really thoughtful, customized package to each customer. So, the time spent creating those nice benchmark packages was really just academic.
For us, I don't think I would change anything, and that's not because we've done it perfectly. We had to go through what we went through, and it was kind of refiner's fire for us. And my team coming in, without any media experience, without any experience with those brands, we had to go through that really hard, difficult year to really learn how to take it forward. And it sucked, and it wasn't fun, but it definitely helped us get us where we are today and where we're looking in the future.
We've got a couple minutes left. If anyone has any questions, you can head on up to the microphone while that's happening. Kind of a quick, what do you, we've talked about this being a piece of the future of newspapers, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's agencies. Where do you think newspapers are going to be at in 5, 10 years? Could be outside what we're talking about this panel, but just what do you think is going to happen with newspapers as they are today? We'll start quickly.
Well, I think that obviously they're going to look quite different, but I do think that the consumption of hyperlocal content is not going to wane. It's just a matter of people's whatever device they're going to engage with that content is obviously going to be different, and I'm sure even 5, 10 years from now it's going to be something that we're not even thinking about today. So I think that, but I do think that newspapers will obviously have to focus a great deal of their efforts on mobile and on creating hyper-local content that could be pushed real-time from a geo basis, and so that you're really focused on that. I think that that's going to be a critical part of it. I also think focused more on, with SMBs, on data and on the financial transactions that happen, like obviously like what Swipely is doing and others, of helping businesses with all that great data they have of who their customers are today and how they're consuming with that business, and what can newspapers in those sales forces or digital agencies come in and help them with and become that one-point solution for all of their digital needs.
Eric, where do you think newspapers are going to be? I know that you are full of these thoughts and never shy of
totally
telling the
full
truth.
of it. Yeah. I don't know. We were at one of the large media companies in San Francisco yesterday, and I walked out with head in hand just thinking, this is crazy. I hope in 5 years newspapers can get back to what they do well, which is produce really quality content. A lot of the content anymore is just so truncated and crappy, and you have to look at 50 belly flat blaster ads before you can read the article. And I hope that folks like us can help generate revenue in off channels that allow them to get back to what they're really doing good, because it's a service to our community, and we've really done a disservice to it with all of the monetization efforts.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think you're also going to see increasing customization and narrowing down of topics. I mean, Deseret's been really good about doing these sites and these presences that are not really even branded, right? That are around a passionate topic that the local community has. And on the sales side, you've got the newspaper brand to tie it to, but to the consumer, it's the family site,
So
right?
Some affinity.
Right. So, yeah, and I know we're working with the Morning News on doing some of that. I think you're going to increasingly see them maybe focusing on some new brands to the consumer while maintaining that connection to the core brand when they talk to advertisers and spread them across those different sites. So I think that's going to be a verticalization that's coming.
Well, great. Well, and hopefully we'll, in 5 to 10 years, still have newspapers and be able to talk about it. And I want to thank you guys for a great panel and coming out to talk with us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.